Deal Action Plan in Flanders has already now existing for 3 years. In 22, there was a great drought period in Flanders, and therefore the Flemish government took additional initiative because there was already attention on flooding and droughts, but it needs more stronger attention. The Blue Deal had some principles. First of all, of course, if we have water, and in Belgium, Flanders, overall we have enough water, but in summer times, in some regions, there is not enough water for all the users. So it's a problem of scale, either spatial and temporally. And therefore, it's obvious that when there is rainfall, we need to keep that water as much then, and we prefer, as principle, also nature-based solution. Therefore, we want to create in Flanders sponge landscapes, as we call it, so infiltration zones that we can infiltrate when the water is falling in the groundwater, and then use, when there is less surface water, the groundwater as reserve. Of course, the use of water efficiently is also a no-regret strategy, and also water reuse, certainly for enterprises, is also a big one of the measurements and the pillars of the Blue Deal. We have already done an impact analysis of the first measurements. As I already said, the Blue Deal started in 22. We are now 25. And we see that it has a really impact on these issues of a better management of water in Flanders. On the legal side, the former Flemish government has put that into the law. So the new government came into force in 24, and 1 year after, they have to come up with a new Blue Deal. That means at this moment, we have already a draft Blue Deal, and it is the aim of the minister to finish and to finalize on the Flemish government with the new Blue Deal for the next 5 years. So it is now legally binding that every 5 years a new Blue Deal will have to be adopted. And therefore, of course, the only challenging issue is there is a lot of attention, measurements, and so on. And I've already said there is some impact, but we see also the tempo of the climate change itself. And we can do measurements in the field, and therefore we need a lot of collaboration and actions and so on that going forward. But does that go fast enough due to the real climate change? That is still a question that we have to see in the next coming years. The Blue Deal Action Plan is not only a plan from the Flemish government. One of the core elements is that stakeholder involvement is very important. And of course, there are a lot of stakeholders because water is everywhere. Agriculture needs water. You need for logistics transport water. Also important for the nature conservation. So a lot of stakeholders are involved. We had already in Flanders the coordination committee where all the public actors were involved, but we need also the private actors on board. Therefore, we created additional sounding boards, where we also advocated I would say, living society coming to a board. We have also created the instrument of a living lab, and a living lab is where you do the measurements together with the actors into the field. In Flanders, there are now 4 living labs, which are really with round tables with individual farmers, people from nature conservation, from the local municipalities and other stakeholders involved. The targets are coming from Europe, Belgium, Flanders, so the targets are clear, but how to achieve these targets, with which concrete measures you can go on. Therefore, you need also the local knowledge is very important to involve in it. And therefore we have this living labs created to come up with measurements that are really also executed, because of the living actors into the region also involved. There's also a big better chance that the actions will be executed. Of course, I'm now looking into a regional scale, but there is, as we know, in river basins, if you do something, for example, at downstream, it is necessary to also take measurements upstream. And therefore, for Flanders, international collaboration is very important. Flanders, Belgium is very small. The scale comes from France, goes to Belgium, to the Netherlands. Also for the Meuse, Germany, Luxembourg, and also are involved. And therefore, we appreciate also the work of INBO very much, because they are collaborating with all the river basins in Europe and even further. And we think we have a lot of challenges. We have seen here is in the conferences, and we think that mutual exchange, learning from each other, is very important. Also, the twinning initiative by INBO, I find it a very good initiative, and I hope that it becomes a big success.